I would like to say is that I think that meditation I mean by this like particular meditation technique which we apply when we're sitting cross-legged or walking up and down is given too much importance in many Buddhist circles. It's not that they're not important, of course, but they're not like a magic bullet that they don't. It's not just you have a problem in your life and the more you meditate, then the more likely you will be free of that problem, because there are some problems that are sila problems. They're not meditation problems, so they won't necessarily get better through meditation, calm or even insight. So some things are hard work in terms of changing your habits of speech and how you relate to the people around you. So the training is one of conduct and of the heart and of wisdom, and has to be an integrated development. And I think the best way to look at the cultivation of Buddhist path is in terms of the 4 right efforts, which we call samavayama in the Eightfold Path. So that means that whether you're meditating or you're with your family or you're at work or whether you're alone or with other people, you are putting forth this kind of balanced effort. And there are 4 areas in which you need to put forth this effort. And first is to take care of your mind, so that the defilements of mind cannot enter into your mind. So the strategy you use to protect your mind will depend on who you're with, what you're doing, but you need some consistent effort to take care of your mind. But you won't always be successful with that, and so you also need to be able to put effort into letting go of the defilements when they arise. The third area is to bring the wholesome qualities into your mind which are not there yet. And fourthly, to take care and to further develop those wholesome states that have already arisen. So with regards to the unwholesome dhammas, then the challenge is to protect the mind and to prevent the mind from becoming full with defilement, and then in the cases where you can't do that, to let go of the defilement, to put effort into bringing wholesome dhammas into the mind, and then when they have arisen, to bring them to maturity. So let's give a simple example. You say you're driving to work in the morning. You say, well, what are the kind of defilement that can arise in your mind when you're driving to work? Well, you get irritated and angry with people who drive selfishly or don't keep the rules. So this is your practice on the way to work. Where can I put my mind? How can I set my mind in such a way that I'm not going to allow it to become irritated and angry with the behavior of other people? Or you're in any kind of situation, you say, what is the Dhamma, what is the virtue that I can be developing here? If I'm develop mindfulness, what to be mindful of in this situation? Is mindfulness not just like a free-floating quality? You have to be mindful of something. So in a conversation or in a meeting, then your mindfulness might put a lot of emphasis on speech, on being very careful about only speaking the truth, and the truth which is beneficial at the right time and place, with kind heart, and with polite speech, and to develop the listening skill, to listen, even when people you don't like or you don't trust, being willing to just to put those personal feeling to one side and really listen carefully to what someone's saying with respect. And in a public situation, then you can be working with sense of self-consciousness and worry about what people are thinking about you and what they, how they look at you, whether they like you or don't like you. All these kinds of things are Dhamma practice in daily life. So if you see the practice in terms of the 4 right efforts, it makes a bridge between what we call the formal practice and then daily life. Because when you are meditating, you are doing exactly the same thing. When you're sitting, you put your mind on the meditation object in such a way that the hindrances cannot arise in your mind, or if they do arise, then you let go of them. And you're bringing into the mind a wholesome dhammas of mindfulness and clear comprehension, and contentment with the object and clarity of mind and joy in the mind. And when these qualities start to appear, then you learn how to take care of them and to cultivate them. So whether you're with your family or you're at work or you're in the meditation hall, you are basically doing the same thing, and that's a kind of continuity and understanding the continuity between the meditation and the daily life is one of the most important things for us to learn. And that's mine. Yeah, when I was a teenager, one of the books or series of books people my generation, we all used to read is the books by Carlos Castaneda.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you read his books. Yeah. So I was a big fan of these books. Yeah. But the person I liked the most is Don Gennaro in these books. And so Don Gennaro has a son. And as I remember, it's a long time ago now, his son dies, and he's grieving and he's crying, and so Carlos Castaneda says, "Oh, you've been teaching about non-attachment and that all these relations with people, and it's just an illusion. So why are you so upset?" I said, "Yeah, everything is an illusion, but the death of a child is a super illusion." He said. So it's like it's a very special kind of time. Especially for a mother, this is this human being first appeared in your womb, and you carried for 9 months, and you've made so many sacrifices for them. How could you not have some attachment? So I sometimes say it's like the tax you pay. This is one way of talking about the first noble truth of suffering. It's not like looking everything in a really sort of black, miserable way, everything's suffering. But what it's saying is that even the best things and most valuable things in your life, they have like a shadow side to them. There's not like 100% joy, and wherever there's that kind of love and personal attachment, there will also be a lot of pain there. It's just the two things go together. But I think that for most people, you say, well, you weigh them up and you say, well, yeah, it's still worth it at the end of the day, even with all this pain. I would never not want to have those children. Yeah, so this is just part of being a human being in the world, isn't it? But at the same time, we can see that beyond that, we can say just that kind of natural, biological, basic kind of attachment, which you have to have, otherwise you wouldn't have brought your children up in the first place, or you just abandon them when they give you a hard time. Then there's sometimes we make ourselves more suffering than is necessary. And if we have like certain ideas and that we want them to be a certain way, and we can't accept if they're a different way than we want them to be, or we allow our mind just to run on about all the things that might happen, and with our anxiety and our fear of losing, or the fear of the ones we love suffering unnecessarily, then that's the kind of thing that you can deal with in meditation practice. We're seeing thoughts and feelings and emotions. They're just that. That's a feeling. That's a thought. That's an emotion. It's not bad. It's just normal and natural. But if we run away with it and just think, oh, if this happened, that happened, what would I wouldn't be able to live if that was to happen. And these are the kinds of thoughts you just have to recognize. They're just thoughts. They're just things that happen in the mind. They're just like part of the weather of the mind. That's just what, like a mum's mind. It's like this. So you say, oh, this is mum mind, you know. You just don't take it so seriously. And I think you probably remember I'm saying that, you know, I do say this about my mum, that she was so anxious about children all the time that no one ever would let her know what's going on because they're afraid that she can't handle it. So instead of that kind of anxiety bringing you closer together, it actually creates barriers, and people don't dare to let you know when they have suffering, or in ways that you could probably help them. And you remember that even when the Buddha was going to pass away, and Venerable Ananda, who's his attendant, and he was a stream enterer, he's the first level of enlightened being, he started to cry, you know, when the Buddha was going to, so even the, you know, the enlightened being, they feel this kind of emotion. The thing is, you know, what I really appreciate with Buddhism right from the beginning is not saying you should be like this and you shouldn't be like that, and if you're like this you're a good person, if you're like that you're a bad person, if you're like this you'll go to heaven, if you're like that you go to hell. But Buddha's saying, how is it right now? Just look at this, and don't ever think it shouldn't be like that. Well, it is. It's like this. You know, and I was saying to Elena, you meditate. If you've been meditating for a long time, you like feel like you shouldn't. Oh, what's gone wrong? I shouldn't have this kind of coarse feeling, you know, or someone who, you know, when the defilement take over your mind, it's like you're back to square one. You know, at that moment, it's not actually that, but that's how it feels. And somebody who's been meditating for 20 years, if they're angry, and they're really angry, it's no different than the anger of someone who's never meditated before, because anger is just anger. You know, it's just like I say, you open the door and it comes in, it sits down, and lust and these kind of things the same. You know, if you're never. It's only when you reach one of the stages of enlightenment that you can be free of that. So, you know, you're talking about the partner and the young women. This happens like sometimes, like with monks, like that they meditate for many years and they get to a very good state of meditation. It's very stable, and you don't feel very much like strong negative emotion. But my idea is it's like you boil the water with all the bugs in to like 90 degrees centigrade, and then you think that the bugs are dead. But then if you let the water cool down and all the bugs are just where, you know, you haven't actually killed them because you didn't reach the boiling point. And this is what happened with many meditators. And then suddenly they lose all their confidence, and they think, wow, you know, I thought I've been working on this for years and it's still the same. I mean, that's not really true, but because I have created a lot of good qualities, but it means you can't ever just relax and say, now I got this worked out, now I'm okay. Because it's only when you reach one of the levels of enlightenment that you can say that's the end of it. This is why it's so significant. And the Buddha said it's one who reaches stream entry, it's like you shut the door on all the lower realms of being. And we said that all the suffering in samsara in the past, it's like all you can compare to all the earth, you know, in the whole world. And if you're the sotapanna, the suffering that remains, it's like the dirt underneath your fingernail. You know, it's just very little left now. But until you reach that level, you can never just say, yeah, that's not a problem for me anymore. I got that one worked out. That's very dangerous. Because of observation of the results of practice, and it's not, you know, you don't have to be perfect in something, but you see that your sense of your, first of all, on the level of sila, you should the 5 precepts should be just really strong, and you should be confident that even if you're tempted or you're pressured, that you can keep the standards of conduct that you have adopted. You understand law of karma. Also, I think that you start to notice that things that would have upset you a lot before, now they don't upset you so much. It's not like you're completely free of negative feeling, but they don't last very long. And your mindfulness come back again very quickly. The other thing I think is many people can observe is just you appreciate goodness much more. You know, when you see people, because you know how easy it is to act badly and how difficult it is to act well. And when you see people acting well and kindly and making sacrifices for each other and doing good things, and you see it's so beautiful. Yeah, yeah, you see that, yeah. And that means your mind's becoming more clear and bright now. You begin to see these things more. So it doesn't mean that now you don't have any anger left, or you don't ever feel jealous, or you don't ever feel your feelings are hurt, or you don't feel proud, or that's just like ongoing work. You know, that's your work. But if you really look closely, you can see in so many areas of your life that the Dhamma has improved your life, and that's where your confidence comes. Well, upekkha is just you know, here is the representative of wisdom. So all these different groups, they all have some connection. It's like organic connection between them, and there'll always be like a wisdom quality or like a representative of wisdom. Maybe doesn't have the name of wisdom, but in this group, then upekkha is that evenness of mind that comes from reflecting on law of karma. So if you maybe you see someone who's really suffering and you want to help them, and they don't trust you, or they're happy, they don't see as a problem. They say, you know, leave me alone. I just want who are you to tell me what to do, or something like that. So if you don't have any upekkha, then you can just feel so sad and yes, depressed and hopeless but with upekkha you can see, yeah, people make their own karma, and that if people have created those causes, conditions, they're not yet ripe enough to be able to hear the Dhamma. This I really see this with like sense of ripeness. You know, so some people can listen to, or we can listen to a Dhamma talk on one topic, you know, for years, many times we hear it, and we kind of understand it. It's quite inspiring, but doesn't really reach our heart. And then just one day you hear it, it's like you hear it for the first time, and you say, oh yeah, you know. And it's not because, you know, it's not because the monks or the teacher says anything very different. It's just it's just that time and place where we're ready to hear that now. So you know, I think when you try to help him, you say you do the best you can, but maybe that person's just not ready for that yet. So with upekkha, you just withdraw for a while, but like upekkha is not like indifference. It doesn't mean you say, no, I don't care, and I'm just gonna, I've done my best, and you just forget it. But it means that if something changes and that person becomes more open, then you move back into more active mode. So like the metta and karuna is more kind of going outwards, but sometimes you just have to come in and just to gather your own energy, and then when things change, maybe you can do something more productive. This is actually a teaching of the Buddha. He taught that like the 4 ways to answer questions. First one is, and this is the mindfulness that you need to distinguish which kind of question is being asked. So if somebody says, you know, is this, are we in Thailand right now? You say yes. You know, it says yes and no. But if someone says, do you think this is a good thing or a bad thing? If I don't know, like a debate in Thailand would be whether they make Buddhism the national religion in the constitution or something like this. Do you think this is a good thing or a bad thing? So, you know, you can't just say one or the other. You have to say, well, there are some good points like this and this, but there are some problems that would arise like this and this, and so you have to take the problem apart and look at it in different ways. And then there's the third kind of where you counter question. It's where that the Ajahn Chah used to like to use this method a lot, because it really sort of, oh yeah, you can maybe have some real insight about the kind of question you're asking. And then you have other people who are so confused that it's better not to answer at all, because they, you know, people have some very fixed ideas, or, you know, maybe somebody, sometimes they're sort of born again Christian or something like this, they come and they don't really want to know, they just want to, they'll just twist whatever you say, but not to say anything at all. The other kind of mindfulness in speech, you know, is if you take those 5 points that I made earlier on for mindfulness, as we call the 5 elements of good speech, is that what you say is true, and it's also beneficial to the person. The third, it's the right time and place to say that thing. The fourth, you have a good intention, and the fifth, you have speak politely. So then you can have like the 5 opposites of that. There's someone who's lying or saying something which is not beneficial, not the right time and place, not kind, not coming from a place of kindness and not polite. But then with those 10 points, it's very good for listening to as a practice when you listen to somebody. Is maybe you have a sort of emotional reaction, you don't like what someone's saying, you want to reject, but then if you see in terms, actually what that person's saying is true and it's quite beneficial, but I'm feeling this because this isn't the right time to be talking about this right now. or it's true and it's beneficial and this is probably the best time, but I just don't trust that person's intention in bringing this up, or else I'm just reacting to their coarse language. But being able to pull these things apart in this way, so otherwise sometimes somebody says something, it's actually you really need to hear it, but you can't hear it because you don't like that person, or you don't like their tone of voice, or their you think they're just trying to hurt you or something. But even if somebody is bringing something up because they want to hurt you, it might still be true, and it might still be useful to know that.